Hey everyone, welcome to the Sig Network Policy API subgroup meeting. Today is the 6th of May, and let's all follow the Kubernetes Code of Conduct and be nice to each other. We do have a quorum here, so we will get started. There's not much on the agenda, but what we can do is to do a quick status update of where the community stands, because we do have a few newish folks, like we have Casey joining us today from Tigera. We have Gaurav and Peter, and we can just get started with what's on the agenda now, and then Sean, you can maybe give your update once I finish mine. So the status right now where the community is heading towards is that we want to try to get our ANP and BANP, the two new APIs, to beta. And one of the main changes there is to actually not have two new APIs and just merge towards one singleton CR, the custom resource definition CRD, which can express both of these using a tiering system. So there's a lot of those discussions already happening. And if anybody is interested in knowing how that merge is going on, please check out this PR 289, which is the NPEP where the discussions are happening to merge these two. And this is like a critical piece to get us to that beta journey. And I think we are proceeding and progressing in the right direction in terms of the technical changes that we are doing here. And we also had, and all of this is coming out of some good conversations that happened at KubeCon. And there we also have a dashboard, a project board of sorts. So if anybody is looking to contribute to the project and to get started, there is a few issues in to-do that are in unassigned state. A lot of them might be improvements to the test framework and conformance tests, but then there's also some other things like changes to the API itself, which are here, or if anybody wants to has any questions by looking through the issues, some of them might be stale, and definitely reach out to us on Slack and we can help you. But overall, right now, we have all of these four, and all the issues here is what we are tracking towards getting us to beta. And like I mentioned, the combining ANP and BNP is the top priority that Nadia is working on. She's on PTO today, so she won't be joining us in May, but she'll be back in June. There is also this whole bug that we had around the ports field. I think that's progressing, and that is tied to the more protocol support of some sorts, because we're also trying to change the protocols port field struct completely to make sure we can add more types of protocols and not just TCP, UDP, and SCTP, but ICMP and so on and so forth in the future. So make it more extensible and to not lock ourselves into for the future. And then the last bit is what Boe is working on to change the semantics of allow action to actually be called as accept, so that it makes more sense, that it is a proper accept of it, and it's not like allowing to the next layer or something like that, which can be misinterpreted. And there's some confusion around those things. And before we could get to any of these, we were actually stuck on being able to cut the V1 alpha 1. So our goal was to cut V1 alpha 1 first, and then do all these changes, and then cut a V1 alpha 2 by US KubeCon, which is like the next 4 months, so that we can then, during the KubeCon, decide whether it's a go or a no-go for beta, which is we all want it to happen this year. But then I think the go, no-go will happen closer towards the US KubeCon. But we want to position ourselves for that, towards that. And I'm taking point charge to get that cut for V1 alpha 1 as soon as possible. So it'll be like a .6 patch release, and then we can have a new repo for V1 alpha 2 for the changes that Nadia and everybody else is working on in the subgroup. And for me, I have a PR, that's what I linked here. So this is the last PR, sort of like API change, not exactly an API change, but it is graduation of the networks field to standard. And I also changed the conformance tests to suit that need, to move it from experimental to standard. So and I think Dan is reviewing this. So once this PR gets in, we should be able to open a new PR for API review. And the next steps are to get Tim Hawkins and Tim Hawkins sign off on an API review. And then we can cut off a V1 alpha 1, which will unblock us for the rest of these issues. And yeah, that's where we're at. I will open the floor to you, Sean, for any updates you have or any questions anybody has.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I reviewed Nadia's PR. I think I had an action from last time to have a look at it. If she's on PTO for the rest of the month. Do we need some plan to progress that? I'm just thinking 4 months is not a long time if we're waiting a month before we even merge that, and then there's a lot of stuff behind that we need to work on.
I think it's a good concern, but if I look at so even if we get in, I think 296 can merge pretty fast, like because the PR is ready. But the API review itself, which is to get Tim's time, I'm not sure what commitment we have there. Like once we get that API sign off is when we can cut the release. And maybe that'll take another 2 weeks. I don't know.
I wasn't thinking of your PR, I was thinking of Nadia's MPAT.
So I was trying to get, so does the NPEP need more work, or I thought the next step was for her to do a POC of the API changes, and everybody's blocked on V1 Alpha 1 was my understanding. Is that not the case?
Yeah, I was just wondering what we need to do to get that moving, since it's the sort of main like it's the main blocker for anyone who wants to start coding up implementations. We need to agree this MPEP and get it merged as provisional, or
Provisional. And
if Nadia is going to be on holiday for the rest of May, then are we delaying that a bit too much?
I can't speak for herself, but
I also I don't know what's the kind of process for like actually merging this, because we've got a bunch of comments. They're all kind of just a bit of back and forth. I'm not really sure how we tie it all off and say, yeah, this is good to go in now, and who needs to do that.
It's got to be everybody who is reviewing this. So for example, I think you're still leaving some comments, right? Like, so I think we need like an official LGTM and approve from people like Boe, you. I could also do it. I'm just finishing up the V1 Alpha 1 card before I jump into this. And Dan can then do the +2, right? So I think we need a 1+1 and 1+2. But to me, it looks like everybody's just leaving comments and reviewing, and nobody's actually given the LGTM. Right?
Yeah, I think there are a few things where like I'd commented on a thread that someone else started, and then I guess we're now waiting for that person to come back and say what they think. And yeah, okay. So we just need to corral people a bit to.
Yeah, but it's a valid concern. So if anyone on the call here is interested in reviewing, please do. But I will also need to spend some time once I finish the graduate CRD changes for networks. I can come back to this. But you're right. I think we need to definitely converge on the NPEP, because it has to go to provisional state for the use cases and then implementable for the API change itself.
Yep.
And then we wait for 2 implementations before we can make it beta. All right. I think that was our plan. So we don't need to give time for the implementations to implement it. Yeah. And tests. We need to adapt to the tests as well. Yeah, there's quite some work left. But let's try to converge for reviews on this one.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly if there were any kind of critical comments that needed to be addressed, or if it was mainly just that Nadia would probably respond to them all, put things in the doc, and then propose an API as the next step. That felt like probably the right thing to do. Like I don't think we were sort of disagreeing or anything. We were just commenting on like nuances and discussing things.
Yeah, I think unfortunately NPEPs always take some time, less time than KEPs, thankfully.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have some good points. So I don't think there's any strong opposition, but I think we're trying to nail down the nuances here and there. So Oh, wait, I see you joined the call. So if you have any comments or reviews, or if you're good with this, definitely leave your LGTM. But if not, we were just saying that we probably want to converge on some of the aspects here on this NPEP so that we can move it to an implementable stage with the
Yeah, I think
API changes.
I didn't see anything major, although I don't know how recent. Let me take a look if like some of the comments got incorporated already. I'll take a look.
Yeah, awesome. And so if you and Sean, if you and Boye are both okay, then it means like the approver should be able to then, like, I think Dan's also reviewing it, but we can give him a reminder.
And the main thing is it's hard for anyone to give their looks good to me until they've seen the final document, which sort of depends on Nadia responding to the comments and saying, here's what I'm going to do or not do for any of the comments. So maybe we do need Nadia's take on things, or we need to be more concrete.
Yeah, if there are any comments that have not reached a concrete conclusion, then yeah. Yeah, I do see comments that are not resolved, so maybe she's working through them. But yeah, I mean, I can't, so I know she's on PTO from Red Hat because we work on the same team, but I don't think she's actually gonna, I don't know about the upstream commitments, so that's why I can't speak for her.
I mean, is it possible? Like, do you know if she's gonna do this or not?
Yeah, that's the thing I don't know. Yeah, downstream for sure she's on PTO, but upstream I can't tell.
Wait, oh, really? Is it like severance? I think like this looks. It looks like all these comments could be resolved. Not resolved as in we resolve them, but like just needs to be incorporated and one more pass. I wonder, just from a cadence perspective, like, do you know if she's going to be back? Like, should someone pick this up if she's not? Like, I just want to make sure that we kind of keep moving so that the implementation is kind of, we're able to cut V1 alpha 1 and then, right, like keep going.
Yeah, why don't we start a thread? Like, let's start a thread on the network policy API channel, and we
Okay.
can tag her. So maybe that's the best way to get her attention. So let's
Okay.
do that and make sure that she will continue to work on this during May and keep this going.
Yeah, like I'm looking towards like if we could hopefully exit May with most of the stuff that we discussed at KubeCon kind of in, because we discussed them, and then be able to just progress. Because I know, for example, the person who's working on the Cilium implementation on our side is waiting for like certain API fixes to get committed, and it just makes it easier if it's already available versus like carry patching it temporarily.
Yeah.
But by the way, I'm happy to like push it, just mechanically push things forward. If people need someone to like make edits, right? Like I can do that.
Yeah, that would be awesome, except I don't know how you will now get the edit access to this. So let's start a thread with her to see how she wants to do this, how she plans to do it, and hopefully we'll get a response.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that's the part. Like, I don't know how you are gonna get the edit access to her PR. Right. Yeah, unless she gives it to you explicitly
Oh,
from her
I meant
branch.
like if she's like out and she's generally okay with the direction, we could just like clone it and kind of at least get the commit in so we can kind of keep moving. But
Yeah.
anyways, let's start with her.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good. And that's all I had. Anybody else wants to bring up anything else? So once the graduate networks to standard PR is merged and Dan said he'll review it, we will do the API review and cut V1 Alpha 1. So that's expected to happen in the next few weeks. So just a heads up to everyone. We will have breaking API changes in the V1 Alpha 2. So V1 Alpha 1 is just for historical purposes to maintain it. Anything else? Anybody else wants to bring up? I do see Gaurav adding an item, an interesting one. Yeah.
Yes, I actually did have a few questions. I think I just want to get some ideas. So I was going through a couple of talks from the past KubeCon, and I heard some mentions about how we are potentially thinking about using network policies in multi-networking scenarios. I know we may not have had a lot of discussions regarding this, but if there's any threads that are going about, or if there's any proposals anywhere, if there's anything that I could dive into, or if you have some ideas about what we have been discussing so far, like getting that idea would be super helpful.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very interesting area, even for me personally. But I don't think that this community here has actually actively come up with ideas, right? Like, let's say one of the concerns we have had was, well, the thing you're talking about is the legacy network policy API in core Kubernetes. And I think like with every other API, though I think with Gateway, thanks to Gateway, kept that Pooja I think was working on, the services is a bit more clearer, like how we might be able to achieve it. The same thing has unfortunately not happened for network policy in core because Kubernetes still doesn't have this concept of multiple networks. And even with DRA, it has the concept of devices, right? Not multiple networks. So I would say this effort of the construct of multiple networks solidifying needs to come from the multi-network working group first, so that the other communities can then like design the ecosystem APIs. But I don't think we've ever had concrete proposals. There's been opinionated ways we do this. Like, for example, I work for Red Hat. In Red Hat's case, we already implemented an opinionated way of doing network policies with multi-networking, but that's not an upstream, let's say, decided way of doing it. So it could be different versus not.
Got it. Thanks a lot. Yes, I totally agree that the proposal would need to come from the multi-networking community. And from what I'm gathering, I see that there are some floating around currently, but I was just trying to understand if there's any discussions that have happened so far regarding those here. And if not, then maybe we can start working on something. Okay.
Yeah, and the proposal doesn't have to come from multi-networking. I guess that's not what I meant. We can have both
No, I get it.
communities working
Of course.
together.
Of course.
Yeah. The fact that there is no multi-network, the concept, the API, nothing today makes
Okay.
this abstract. I guess that's where we're not. That's why we've not been able to make progress there. But on the other side, just to give you a heads up, Gaurav, network policy in itself, the API does not have any new features getting added. So there was like a plan to have it as it is in core, but not really change it because of all the issues that API has. And our goal was to actually move ahead with the network policy V2 API called developer network policy that blends well with admin network policy and baseline. And well, no, now we don't have a baseline anymore in a few days. But with the new APIs we have for admins, and that is where we potentially could even decide multi-networking or multi-cluster networking and all of that concepts. But that's just yeah. Like trying to get a huge change for network policy in core will be hard, but if you're able to come up with a design with no API change, then yeah.
Awesome. I think that is some relevant context that I was trying to look for, and hopefully I'll explore more. Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it up. I don't know if anybody else on the call has other things they want to add to that topic. And the only other aspect I could think of was even the baseline admin network policy. We thought about it with multi-networks. It was actually a bit hard because it was a singleton object. But then now we've solved it because with the new API changes, we can have more than one BANP. So we can somehow represent it for more than one network. But that's that's as far as we got. Like we never discussed in depth for network policies and multi-networking.
So just one follow-up question over there. When you say the new API, is that referring to the admin network policy API, or is there a V2 API of the network policy itself?
Admin network policy, sorry.
Okay.
For V2, there was a loosely populated Google Doc, which then led to an NPEP, which again we have to ping Nadia to see if she's working on it.
Okay, but
Uh,
just confirming that right now we don't have like a V2 for network policy, right?
No,
Okay.
we don't. Like
Okay.
there is an enhancement proposal for, let's say, doing that.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's let's get this admin network policy done first, because I
Yeah, I
think
agree.
that one is a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thank you, Gaurav, for bringing that up. Does anyone else have anything that they want to bring up?
I just wanted to reiterate, like, we should start setting down some deadlines, I guess, for ourselves, because time flies. It's the summer. I would, as I said before, I would love to see like exiting May with all of the KubeCon related discussions kind of committed, because then we would be in a good shape, kind of moving forward.
I personally echo that. I personally have a deadline for myself to finish cutting the V1 Alpha 1 by May 20. If I can get
Okay.
the API reviewers and everybody in page. I'm aiming for May 20 so that at least by end of May it's done. So, I will keep working at it. And if there's any delay, I will communicate it. But right now it's only one PR that needs to go in, and I'm hopeful that we should be able to do it in May.
Right, because I think we just had a side conversation on Slack. It was like, I think some of the other changes we would wait until that thing happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, you know, then it's like everything kind of gets stacked on top of each other.
I agree. Yeah. I'll try to keep rolling at it and then try to get it in.
Actually, were there changes, or is it just like a tag? Like how big is the delta?
The delta is, from my understanding, apparently needs to be the full ANP API, right?
No, sorry, I meant the changes to cut the tag for the next V1 Alpha.
Oh, the release change itself, the process is very easy. So there is one PR that we are doing from experiment to standard, right? Like, so we're gonna graduate this PR. This is the PR that I was talking about that Dan is reviewing, and we will try to get it in as soon as possible. This was the very last piece needed like the API change piece, let's say the last PR that needs to go in. And once that happens, we have something called, so the last time we brought it up, when this community brought it up with the Sig Network community on getting release cut for an API, there was a rule that was put forth, which is the fact that a Kubernetes API reviewer must give us the approve before we release any Kubernetes APIs. So,
okay.
And Tim Hawkin is mostly okay with this, right? Like, I think he already knows our APIs, but it's like a process thing we have to get him. I don't think Dan Winship is an API approver, but Dan can do an approve from approver side of network policy API subgroup. So what that usually does is like a diff of, like Andrew had, like this PR is stale right now, so I'm gonna have to open a new PR once my changes merge. A diff of this.
Okay, but it's like
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess what I was getting at is like mostly a mechanical thing, not a like,
Yes.
we have to discuss it. Okay.
Absolutely. Nothing controversial, just getting the things rolling, right? Like it's just star mechanical at this stage. I don't see any concerns. The timing is the only concern in like getting each of these done and getting the reviewers done, and then, like we can't vouch for their review time and things like that. So, but we'll keep trying.
Okay.
Okay, I think that's all the items on the agenda. So if there is nothing else, and if there are no questions, we can get our 30 minutes back. thank you everybody for joining. Have a rest of your nice Tuesday and rest of the day.
Thanks,
See
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks.